I seriously just had to make this video, otherwise I would have changed my team that many more times. It's here, our team reveal for round one. Thursday's finally upon us, and we have my team, we have the people squad with a few changes there, and then my Supercoach team at the end as well to show you there. I'm going to be doing one Supercoach video a week, guys, and it's going to be 10 or 11 fantasy videos. So strap yourselves in for an exciting year. I know I can't wait, and a big thank you to all of you for this awesome preseason, and a big thank you to the people that have joined the private group. That has been great so far. I've been going through a lot of the 5-minute videos with those guys, just making sure their team's set up and going through all the options. So that's been awesome to kick things off here. So my team, there's been a few question marks over the last few days, and we'll discuss that at first. And the back and forth that I've had with someone like Harry Grant. As you can see with my team right now, he has not made the cut, and I think I have to stop making changes in this guide. And guys, if I do make any changes from here, you will know about it in the Discord and also in that private group. So yeah, it's been back and forth with him at the moment, and I've been speaking about someone like Carrigan all preseason, and I've just seen obviously their bench, and I'm a little bit worried about minutes. I just can't see him playing the 80 or 70 there. So probably about the 60 mark, and we know that he can be a little bit up and down in terms of his scoring with those minutes. 55 to 60, Payne Haas will probably be similar, but we know that he has a bigger sample size of 60 plus scores, and that's why I've stuck with Haas, and I've gone up to Murray. Alternatively with him is their bench is very, very limited in terms of guys that are going to play minutes, and with them having a really tough start to the year, I can see him playing 70 to 80 minutes on a regular basis. And we saw last year when he played 70 and 80 minutes, those round 2 and 3, he did score a couple of mid 80s. So he's someone that has made it into my side, and that's had to, that's caused me to make some changes elsewhere. In terms of guys that are sitting there pretty well must-haves in my side, it was Brandon Smith, which makes sense. It's just, owned by too many people to be someone that you can't have in your side. Guys like Egan Butcher, now that it's sort of locked in that he's going to get that spot, you can see sort of 150k in value and an average of 50, you'd say, most likely. He can do, he can do it with scoring tries. He can do it with tackles and run meters as well. Just a really solid player, as good as his brother or even slightly better is what he's been, shown through the younger years. So he's in there as well. Payne Haas hasn't moved for, probably 3 or 4 weeks now. Obviously we changed a lot through the preseason with all the noise that he had coming into the preseason there. He's now locked into my side and potentially has probably 5 or 6 points of value and gets him into the 60s, and that's exactly what we want. In terms of setup, guys, there's the reason why we have Jackson Ford in the starting is because he plays a little bit earlier than some of these guys. So he slots in there because he plays in that second game of the week, guys. And if you're setting up your team as well, it's probably weird. Oh, why is Payne Haas on his interchange? And why is Egan Butcher in there over guys like Lioro and Katoa? So Liora and Katoa actually play that first game. So you want to lock them in there, and then you want to leave your interchange available to be able to make some switches with different players. If one of these guys goes out in your starting side, you can only fill that with someone in that same position. Where if someone is out in that interchange, you can move anywhere around that 8 there with the interchange and the emergency. So that's the call there. Hopgood's a must-have, guys. You obviously have to have him in your side. So this is where it became a little bit interesting. With a couple of my selections, you can actually see one of them now, which we'll just slide it down a little bit there, is just Suali'i. So the last couple of hours, I've been back and forth with a couple of moves. So let me know you guys' thoughts on this one as to how you would play it. The move was Eli Katoa and Justice Suali'i out for Pat Carrigan, and then I had to go really cheap. So I had Khan Pereira in there at 230. Let me know how you think that sets up. My main issue with making these teams at the moment really is the fact that there's so many uncertainties in this wing fullback and center position. That's where I've been racking my brain this whole time. And so I've actually landed on spending a little bit of cash in that position, because what it looked like if I didn't spend any cash in the centers and the wing fullback there, I was looking at, definitely keeping guys like Butcher. And that meant I ended up with Grant. It meant I ended up with guys like Carrigan, potentially Hastings as some other options to spend that money instead of Drinkwater, spending it on Hastings, for example, and having him as my third halfback. But what that caused issues with is the fact that you're missing out on these sort of mid-range, lower tier guys. The Katoa's at under 450, Trent Liero under 400 there. Jackson Ford potentially was the guy you moved on from. And I just thought that was probably a little bit silly given the fact that they can, if they're getting 60 minutes, they're easily getting close to that 10 points of value. Whereas trading for some of those guns, Carrigan, I think, probably has 5 points of value. Is that enough? Can he come out and score a 50 round one and just keep his value? For sure. Could Liero and Katoa come out and not score super well? Could they lose their spot to Sims? Could they lose their spot to Eisenhuth? These types of guys. They're all question marks, but the biggest issue I found with these centers and the wing fullbacks, especially all those cheapies, literally every cheapie in your team, guys, has some kind of issue. You're looking at those Eels cheapies. At the moment, I've got Cartwright in there. It's going to be him or Dury, I think, at this stage. Again, these bench guys are probably subject to change, whether it's him, Cam Pereira, these types of guys. Cam Pereira is actually up in a crazy percentage ownership. Hopgood's really high now, which is good, but Cam Pereira is right up there as well. So, yeah, how it works out, I'll work that out there. But Cartwright or Dury, even them, either one of them, both of them, potentially only have 3 weeks in the side. Is that worth it? Cardi, that he can have a really solid PPM, where Dury, you don't think so. So really, the good thing is with Cardi or with Dury is that they play that first game. So you'll know if there's any changes in the bench, whether Murchie goes into starting side, whether any of them gets dropped or anything like that, we will find out in that first game. Also the same with Liero and Katoa. So that very much is helpful. The good idea with these mid-range type of guys is if they do underperform or they don't get the role that you think they're going to get minutes-wise or something like that, you can downgrade them to one of the cheaper guys that has come up and done well, and you can upgrade elsewhere. Or you could straight swap one of these cheaper guys and straight swap one of these guys to a Ryan Sutton or these types of players there if you have a little bit of cash. So currently sitting with 21 in the account. Yeah, I'm still not completely sold on it, but what I've noticed with all the teams I'm looking at is everyone has some type of gap. I was thinking of going the real light in the centers and wing fullbacks and then going really heavy up top. That would mean Grant's up there. Or I would have Carrigan, and that leaves me very strong in the hookers. The mids there, obviously plenty of value in the edge, strong in the halves, and then just really, really poor in the centers. So it would have been Alamotti and Thompson. Or the other option is Alamotti and Talau, and then you're playing you've got a Smith Shields to cover that center position, or a Cam Pereira on the emergencies, which is okay, but nothing special. And then the wing fullbacks was Lockie Miller, Warbrick, and Tamate Martin. And Tamate, we know for him, he doesn't have a lot of upside. Really, the base for him is going to be that 25 to 30. You can get 35 maybe if he gets a try assist, but really in that side, we're not expecting too much from him. And that's kind of the good thing with someone like Cam Pereira, is that the fact that you could, if you play him in the correct week, if they come up against a lighter side, for example, and he bags a double and gets 55, that's awesome for your side. Whereas Tamate, he's over 300k. Do you play him? Do you just drop him and go for Talau in that position and again have a Smith Shields or something like that in the emergencies? And then you're playing with Isaac Thompson in the centers, who we're not actually sure if he's going to have his spot next week. So there's a lot of question marks there. I just decided to go up to Suali'i. So the options were with him there. It was Suali'i. It was Stags. I had in my team at one point there at that slightly cheaper price. There was Isaiah Tass, who I had in my side for a brief period of time. I just jumped on Suali'i. I think at this stage, it looks like he's going to be fine concussion-wise. And they have the Dolphins and then the Warriors first up. He has that dual position, which is also great. And the good thing there, those first two games, he could come out and absolutely dominate. And when I mean by dominate, I'd absolutely love a 45 each and every week there to a bag of 50s across that first two games. And that would really put me above the pack if he can do that. If they can come out and play really well. Last year, they started poorly. Hopefully this year, they can come out and do well. They didn't play that great in the trial either. But up against the Dolphins, there might be a little bit of a tight tussle. But if the Roosters can come out and really be firing, then they're going to have a great game. And Suali'i's going to do well on that left edge with Kiri, with Egan Butcher there, with Tupou. There's going to be plenty going on for Joseph there. So a little bit of a worry. There's him. There's Talitau Kola was the other option I had as well to go a little bit lighter. But again, he has a buy in round 2. So really, in all of the options, in the mid-range, in the high range for the centers, there's some positives and negatives for all of them. So really, my whole theory with this was, I put a little bit of money in here. That shores up the centers and the fullback position, which is awesome. And I can get all those value middies and cheapies that we were looking at getting in our teams, and I don't miss out on any of them. And look, not all of them are going to pop, right? But when they're not at basement price, you can move on from a few of them. So that's where it's good to have a bunch of those guys and not hold a ridiculous amount of cheapies. I have a decent amount here. I have 7 in total. if you're looking at Alamotti and Warbrick, and then the guys on the interchange bench. But really, I think you at least need to have 6. 8's probably too many. I think so. That's 7's kind of the solid range I think most people are running with. You're either sitting there with a couple in your starting team and a couple in your emergencies here, and then definitely Ford, definitely Liero, and then going, for Ryan Sutton and these types of guys as well. You got a few in that sort of 400 bracket, or you go a little bit heavier with Butcher and then go down to a cheaper type of guy. But as I said, all of the emergencies guys, they don't have a super amount of job security. There's not a clear idea on them being able to do super well. Alamotti probably looks, out of all the cheapies, looks like the guy that can probably be the safest option to get a base at that cheapest price at 230. Talau, he comes with his negatives. He hasn't played in a long time, on and off really, and he has some really low scores in his game. The dual position is a big win. I think you need to carry him just for that. And Tiger's going better. I think he's going to be good. Preston, there's still a few things up in the air. Andrew Davey is a chance of coming onto the bench. He would take Tanner's spot. It's believed to be, because Preston was most likely going to be in this side before the Luke Thompson news. So I think Preston can be used on an edge, a little bit through the middle as well. He's a base stat type of guy. So I think he's going to do well. I don't see him getting out of my side. Blore, he could have a good couple of games to start. Bateman, nowhere to be seen in that 21. So does he end up getting moved into that 21 next week? And then we see Blore go back to the bench. There's so many question marks here. Khan Pereira could score you a 10 and then score you a 50. There's just way too many question marks. Ben Murdoch-Masila, the theory is with him that he played so well in those trials and they need a more of a damaging edge. Bird's there and he could do a good job, but I think he'd be a great link man. So he actually has been training in the 13 role. And if Ben Murdoch-Masila can come in and get that starting edge position, I think he's going to score really well. Whether it's in the 30s, whether it be a 40, I think he can do that. And at worst, this week I get to use him as a loop option, which is great. I can plug and play him in the mids there, or we can just use him in this 4 spot and try and loop a guy like Cartwright. If he happens to play and I keep him in this side, he could come out and get 80 minutes and score a 50, where I'd want to loop him. And all I'd do, guys, is I would leave Ben Murdoch-Masila in that number 4 spot, and then I would get Cartwright's points. For those that are asking me about looping, there are plenty of new people here watching. If you've been here for a long time, then you don't have to worry about that too much. You know what's going on. But Ben Murdoch-Masila can be used as that. So generally, guys, that's the squad there. The next big one was obviously Cleary and Dewey. I had Hines, and when Hines went down, it was time for Cleary. I was thinking about him anyway. And the good thing is, when he's out in round 3, thankfully I only have one of those guys out in round 3, the Panthers boys, and I can just use Tanner Boyd in that half position. I decided to fade Isaiah Katoa at this point. I just think that he is very young, he's so talented, but what are the chances of him coming out and absolutely dominating from ball 1? I don't think it's highly possible. So I think we can wait on him, and there's every chance that Milford cleans up his act, gets back into that squad. I think if Katoa goes well, we can just plug him in for another fallen cash cow. But just at the moment, I just can see him missing a lot of tackles, for example, and getting a pretty low score with the Dolphins not looking like they're going to score a mountain of points. So that's the theory there. Drinky, the big one for him is just I could shore up that wing fullback position. As I said, we get to keep him all the way through till round 15 when they have their bye. So that's really nice. That's really comforting to have. When Warbrick's probably going to be out after 3 weeks, George Jennings might be back in that time. You're going to be playing merry-go-round in this wing fullback position. So I want to shore up someone for the year. He's actually pretty consistent. He's more consistent than Val Holmes. That's why I went for him. And Cowboys have a decent draw to start. It's not the craziest draw that everyone's talking about, but I think he's going to do a great job in that side. So Drinky's in there, adds probably like the 3rd or 4th best wing fullback in the competition at the moment, and I think he's going to do a good job. I'm pretty happy just sitting him there and scoring me some decent points. So yeah, that's that there. And then Adam Dewey there, and the reason I went him over Hastings, I just think it's more of a sure thing that he comes out. He loves these hands on the ball, runs the ball a lot. The Tigers are going to be a better team than the Knights, and they have the Titans first up, for example, who that type of game is usually very high scoring. So I think Dewey's a bit of a lock in a lot of people's sides. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the squad, guys. Obviously, 21 in the bank. There's definitely a few different things we can do, but as I said, most sides are going to have some type of hole in them. Whether you're missing out on that super gun hooker like I am with Grant, I think we can, I do really want him. He's the only guy, him and Carrigan, the two guys that I'm looking at, I go, oh, I just wish I could have, but maybe we just have to build up to them really quickly. That's, probably the general idea. And hopefully some of these mid-rangers can do that. The Butchers, the Arrows, Katoas, Fords can do that. And if they aren't, we can move them on to someone who's cheaper, or we can upgrade them in another way. But that is my team, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. We're going to go to the people squad, which is going to be next. And there's a few changes compared to my team there. There's no Murray. So we have Carrigan in this one, which is awesome. I suppose most of you guys have checked out the people squad, so I won't go too crazy into that. But the difference is there. Grant's up top, which is awesome. And then we have Smith and Boyd as cover, which is great. And that's the other big thing to think about, guys, is make sure you have some cover in all your positions. Thankfully, I do have the cover with Talau there. If I went for the Carrigan option, Katoa out, Suoli'i out, and bring Carrigan in, I was very mid and edge heavy, and then I would have only had a Cam Pereira or a Harley Smith Shields, which meant I would have had no center cover or no wing fullback cover. Unless I went for Talau on the bench, but I'd rather play Talau than Smith Shields. So either way there, it just left me with a little less cover. So that's that. Anywho, Grant, great option. Eli Katoa and Garner, so they would decide to go for Garner instead of Lioro in this one, spend that extra money to leave us with 9k. So hopefully Garner just plays and he comes out and absolutely dominates. And if he gets moved late, we can change him, not to Lioro, but we can go to a cheaper guy and do it from there. In terms of the differences here, they've got Talau on the emergencies, so he could come in for Smith Shields if he wanted to. They've gone very cheap, the People Squad, in the centres there. Guys, if you're not sure what the People Squad is all about, there's actually going to be a lot of them around. All the different podcasts are coming up with their own People Squad, and we're going to fight off against each other. So this is the Discord crew, guys, and they actually vote to make the changes in this sides, and that's how these teams come together. That's why I say they, because it's our big group that puts that decides on this. Gone for Drinkwater as well, who seems to be becoming a little bit more popular with his long amount of games without a bye. And very similar to here, the strange one, or the interesting one, I should say, is actually spending up that little bit extra on Tomato Martin. So he was still fairly popular. I think he's just that guy. He's going to cover a couple of positions, the half and also the wing fullback position. And we can use him as a solid base type of guy. Again, Dury, we can plug and play him or Cartwright. Depends how things goes, but not a crazy amount of differences, but obviously Grant in, downgraded to Carrigan to get that extra couple 100k. Not spending any money on centers is what allows us to spend up in that Harry Grant purchase. So very, very interesting, and it's just more that long game. I think for me is the way I'm playing it, with the bit of money in the centers and also the wing fullback, and that's the way that we're going with it, guys. So that's the People Squad, really. Let me know what your thoughts are on the People Squad, and if you have any suggestions, message Scoop about the People Squad, or just pop it in the People Squad thread there on the Discord. That would be amazing. Okay, let's move to the Supercoach reveal. Here we go. I did it a couple of weeks ago, and there's a few changes from here. So the 67k remaining, 46 trades up top is always going to be delightful there. But Harry Grant up top with Brandon Smith. So I don't get Harry in my team, so he ends up in my Supercoach team, which is awesome there. We then have guys like Joey Tarpany and Christian Welch. So Welch is someone that I was looking at, to be honest with you, here for a little while. I had Stefano Utoikamanu in there, and I just thought that was a bit too light to then go with some cheapies in Moale and Pele on the bench there. Just slightly worried about this whole front row forward position, and I found it very difficult to be able to pick this position there. But Welchie, I think he's probably a little bit of value in him. You can get him in the 500s or so, and they don't have a lot of middles on their bench, so you just suspect some decent minutes out of him, and also Nas. So they're the two guys there. Tarpany, I just expect a big year, and we can hold him for the entirety of the season, which is a big worry in this front row forward position, I believe. Okay, we move along to the second rowers, and Fafita is the big dog that I've got on the side. Had a pretty poor year last year and still scored well, so I think he can go to the next level in a Titan side that probably improves a little bit, which is good. Teague Wilden, his ability to score tries is what drags me in here. Butcher, him in the 482 there. I think he was a bit of an upgrade for me. I had Katoa in there, but I've gone for Butcher as like that stock standard guy. We know what we're going to get from him. He definitely has some value, and if he can score some tries, even better. Hopgood, a must-have at that price, of course. Murdoch, Masilla, and Preston in there as well, just to round things out with some cheaper guys. We don't need 5 good gun second row forwards at this point. Halfbacks, I upgraded Tanner Boyd actually to Walker. So just with him, I think we can watch Tanner, and given he has a bye in round 5 as well, Not too fast on him making an amazing amount of cash early. So I'm happy to fade him at this point. And I think Walker can score really well at the start and have a really good year. So it's either we could have him for a stretch of time, or we can trade him out in round 4 for all his hard work and potentially pick up a Hines or pick up a Schuster somehow. We can move Katoa up, whatever we decide to in that round 4 bye. So that's that. With Cleary as vice captain, I got Teddy as captain, which is cool too. So Adam Dewey there is going to be my starting 5'8". I think he's going to have a great season. It was him, Burton, Walker, these types of guys, but we'll go with Adam and we can make our decisions from there. Isaiah Katoa, it was him, Schuster. We went for Katoa just at the cheap price. Hopefully he gets to play a lot of the year. In the centers, we went interesting. We got 2 Panthers guys, which I'm definitely thinking about, but I do have Thompson, Alamotti, and Warbrick, who are in the emergencies, who could all be playing in this side if we need them to in round 3. Hopefully Warbrick is still there for sure. Stagsy, I had to downgrade from Holmes to be able to get a little bit of money for Uto Kamanu up to Welchie. So Stags is the one in there. Not super sold on him, but he didn't play that great last year, so he definitely has some upside. Khan Pereira, if he can jag some tries, that'll be hectic. So keen to see him play against those Tigers there. And that left edge is going to be really fun to watch. And then we got Teddy and Trbojevic. So pretty excited about this team, guys. If you're a Supercoach whiz, I'm obviously learning a little bit more about Supercoach. I know a lot more about NRL Fantasy. And as you can tell, I speak about that for days. But yeah, that's the Supercoach team. That's all the teams, guys. I hope you enjoyed the preseason, as I said early. Send me your teams, guys, especially if you're in the private group. Get in there and send me them. I won't be able to reply to everyone in the Discord community. There's just so many people, so many of you, and only one of me. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and good luck in round 1.